Hey everybody, welcome and thanks so much for joining us today. Really looking forward to chatting with you all about this important topic, this accountant shortage that we're seeing in the market and how we can use technology to make life easier or more manageable for controllers. If you do have any questions that come up, feel free to put them in the chat box and we'll make sure to answer those after this session. So just as a quick reminder about Brex, we do offer corporate cards, expense management, and a suite of other products. And then the three primary focus areas for us as a company is really working to make sure that compliance and accounting is easy for the users of the product without sacrificing on quality, making sure that everyone stays on budget and within policy, and then also just being a truly global solution so that folks don't have to juggle all their different entities or geos in different platforms. So with that being said, as far as the agenda today, Erik and myself will run through a brief introduction, talk about the problem that we're facing today in the market with the accountant shortage, offering up three different ways that we can kind of see for people to take action to address these, to address this issue. And then also just, hey, how does Brex help folks like you and me out as well as our companies? Erik, you want to kick things off with an intro?
Yeah, sure. And I want to say thank you all for attending this webinar and Kevin for being such a gracious host. My name is Erik Zhou. I'm the Chief Accounting Officer at Brex. I also serve as the president of our broker-dealer. Prior to joining Brex 4 years ago, I spent over a decade at PricewaterhouseCoopers in their banking and capital markets audit practice. I mostly focused on a lot of multinational financial institutions. I'm excited to be here with you today.
Awesome, thanks. And my name is Kevin Moore. I'm our controller here at Brex. Been at the company for about 5 years. Prior to Brex, I was also at Pricewaterhouse for a handful of years. And Erik and myself have both been around at Brex for kind of the whole duration at this point. And so, taking it from everybody sitting around the same conference room to, operating in 4 different countries, 1,000+ employees, working to make sure we get clean audits and making sure that, our books and records are closed timely and accurately. Okay, so on to the topic at hand, this accountant shortage that we're facing. Erik, do you want to talk through this one?
Sure. I think it comes as no surprise to the folks listening in on this call, but it's been tough out there trying to hire accountants and expand our team. And I think that's being caused by a lack of interest at the college level and in the major. I think there's a lot of skills that prospective accountants have that are also good for other fields, including software engineering, which I know has been very popular over the last few years. But what does that mean for us? That means from the peak that we saw in 2019, there's been a huge drop, almost, let's call it 40 million accountants have left the work field. And we have to figure out how to compensate for that as leaders of our departments and the profession. And so, I'll put it back to you, Kevin. When we face turnover now, think about that. How long does it take to ramp someone up?
Yeah, I mean, maybe it depends a little bit on the level that you're bringing this person into and the type of task you're trying to assign them or get them to provide coverage over. But, I think we typically see once we kick off a search, best case scenario, it's going to be 2 months before we could get them in the door. And then, maybe they're adding value within that couple weeks after that, but truly, are they hitting the ground running? Probably takes at least another 3 to 6 months at that point. And so, not everybody out there lives, breathes, and dies accounting like you and me, but this is one of those hard things where it's just how do we deal with these capacity constraints we see so that we can keep getting the job done on time. So in terms of, 3 levers, right, that I think whenever there's a loss of a staff on the team through some turnover or, a new product that we're launching, a new entity we're expanding into, or also just, more volume of work, that you're seeing if your business is hopefully growing during this time. First lever being people, whether that's FTEs, whether that's contractors, or leveraging third-party consultants to help you out. Taking a look at the processes that you have themselves, and if there is wiggle room to adjust those, and then the systems that are within that tech stack that you have, and how do those work for you or potentially against you as you're trying to get your jobs done. So yeah, so, first time I hear about something coming up where it's like, hey, we want to launch this new product, or hey, we're opening up a new entity. Probably my gut reaction is going to be like, ooh, I'm going to raise my hand and use this as an opportunity to, increase my headcount for my team. Fingers crossed, right? Like that gets approved, but definitely in today's macro, where people are a little tighter on budgets here, and also just, hey, are there even people out there that are willing to take this job? Kind of a tough one. And so how successful?
Why is it that anytime we face a problem, we're always like, can we get a head count? Why is the head count the first thing we think about?
Maybe because it's a little easier, and maybe it's because I'm a little selfish at times. And, it doesn't necessarily require as much critical thinking about whatever it is that you're coming through, versus just like, oh, I want to be protective of my team and say everyone is already at full capacity, and I just want a new person that I can plug into this and let this be their scope of work.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Ultimately, right, having a person, that's probably the most dynamic, because processes also, and the way our business is run today, certainly at Brex, it's so dynamic. So having a person and being able to mold that person into what you need to be, period to period, it might be also different. That actually is easier overall.
Yeah, but again, hey, let's say that we don't have that FTE in here. Thinking about, okay, how can we reshuffle the work across the team and potentially say like, oh, what are some of those more mundane or repetitive tasks that, it is really, you follow this SOP, and as long as you follow this SOP, you're going to get the right result out there. And so, one thing we've been successful at over this past year, right, is launching the outsourcing of certain tasks or responsibilities, right? Things in the AP or procure to pay space, looking at bank reconciliations, looking at some other tasks like that, email inbox management for folks. But again, right, like you have to have the budget for it, and it does take time to stand that stuff up.
It took more time. They're overseas. It took more time to ramp them up than an onshore, but they are a more flexible workforce. So I think we've gotten a big benefit from doing that for sure.
Yeah.